and welcome to Play Disc, the musical podcast in which my brother and I take deep dives into full albums. My name is John Porabil.
I'm Harrison Porabil.
And today, we're going to drop some knowledge and then...
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Thank you! Before we get into it, quick quarantine check. How's it going, Harrison?
I still haven't cleaned my room yet, so I guess I'm just not that desperate for things to do. You know, holding up, I suppose.
It's just like people said, if you don't accomplish your dreams in quarantine, then you really have been lying to yourself about what you would do if you had the time.
I mean, I've never known what the hell I would do if I had the time. And to be honest, I can't say I'm all that surprised by what I have done or not done.
Ooh, you know what? We should start a podcast.
We should. That'd be such a great idea.
If you can find a microphone on Amazon, that is.
Yeah, right. Though I will say this. I experienced a power outage last night, and I did not know what to do. Like, at all.
Sit with the uncomfortable quietude of your own mind?
That's not an option. The thing is, I pay for my data, like, by the byte. Like, if I'm not on Wi-Fi, I have to be very careful about how I use my my phone, which is a shame because I keep like 3 or 4 different battery banks just ready and charged in the event of an emergency. Like, if we lose power for several days, I can make phone calls for like probably the next week. Just, you know, I can't watch YouTube videos, and what's life without YouTube? Oh God, what is life without YouTube? John? John, don't leave me with the quiet of my own thoughts!
Okay, I won't. Hey, Harrison, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite musical genre?
Why
are you thinking about this? I thought this was a slam dunk.
It really isn't. Genre's not
What musical genre do you feel a strange affinity towards to the point where it's become a running joke on our show?
That one. Ska. I mean, if I had to say what my favorite genre is, I'd probably say hip-hop. But I do love me some ska. My relationship to the ska genre is a little bit strange, because for a long while, I didn't know it was a thing. I remember being like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old. You know, everything under 10 is the same age.
12, 11, 10, many. Wait, no, that's not how that works.
And I remember, like, being in your room, and at some point you played this, like, really upbeat horn music. And I had no idea what it was, but I remember being kind of enchanted by it, and I was like, what is this?
I don't remember listening to ska at that age. What was it?
It was Real Big Fish. And to me, like, there wasn't a ska genre, it was just, there's Real Big Fish. And I didn't think about this for, like, several years, because, you know, it quickly fell out of your rotation. But then I got to middle school, and a friend of mine made me a mix CD with a lot of eclectic stuff on it. But there were 2 songs on it that I was just enchanted by, one in particular. And I had no idea what it was. And I showed it to you, asking if you were familiar with it. And you're like, I don't know, that sounds like Real Big Fish. And I was like, yeah, it does sound like Real Big Fish. Wow, I forgot about them. With that, I looked into them more on my own. I was like, wow, this stuff's good. And for the longest time, that was just my understanding of ska. Is just, it's the music Real Big Fish makes.
For me, my reference point for ska has always been the Mighty Boss Tones. Sorry, the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Yeah, which is weird because they always seem incidental to me. But yeah, it was basically Real Big Fish. And then in high school, I fell in with some friends who, like, fully enthusiastically were into ska music, and there was a local ska scene in New Orleans. Like, this might be genuinely surprising to people, but there was and still is kind of a very well-developed local ska scene. It's not nearly as big and varied as it was when I was in high school, or at least I'm led to believe that. I don't go to the ska shows anymore because I don't like being the 20-something dude hanging out with all the teenagers at the all-ages shows. Ugh. But yeah, I fell in with that, and I eventually found out that, one, there were a lot more bands other than just Real Big Fish. And I even made the mistake once upon a time of remarking, wow, a ska band with black people in it. I didn't even know there were black ska musicians. Which,
Harrison.
Oh, yeah. I was in high school. My only exposure was Real Big Fish. What did I know?
Did I mention the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones?
Fair enough. But yeah, and through them I found a lot of local bands who were of varying quality, but usually at least mediocre at worst. And I also found out about more, like, widely known bands, and that was sort of a starting point for me into punk music as well, just through third wave ska. And I started going to a lot of ska shows when ska bands would come through town. Like, you know, I'd see Streetlight Manifesto, I'd see Big D and the Kids Table, Less Than Jake, and even Suburban Legends from time to time. I have seen Suburban Legends live once, and they know how to put on a show. But as I got a little bit older and, you know, graduated high school and started going through my 20s, I kind of started treating ska like, you know, it was this childish thing. It was fun to play with when I was a child, but now it's time to put that stuff away. And I felt kind of self-conscious about the fact that, like, yeah, I still kind of feel good about this.
What Lego aficionados call the dark years.
Yeah, actually. And it was only in, like, the past 5 or 6 years that I just kind of stopped feeling self-conscious about the childish and child-targeted and child-oriented things that I'm still into. Why should I feel bad about liking upbeat horn music for stupid kids, you know? And around the time I was sort of, like, recommitting to, these are the things that bring me joy, I'm going to keep them in my life, I came across this album, and it hit me in a somewhat particular way based on that context. Because my first time listening to this was like 2016-ish? I don't know. So, you know, several years after it had come out, and, you know, after I had sort of put away such childish things before realizing it's okay to take them back out from time to time. But yeah, here we are. I still love ska music. I post that Brooklyn Nine-Nine gif of Jake Peralta all the time.
Ska defines who I am as a person, and I will never turn my back on ska.
There's definitely a bit of a sardonic edge to it for me of like, yeah, ska music is bad, but I don't care.
Yeah, my wife sent me just a couple days ago this meme about ska music, and I'm looking for it right now, so hang on one second.
Oh, there is one other thing I kind of forgot to mention about the ska music thing. I did have one other source of exposure to it, but I kind of didn't recognize it at the time as such. I just thought, like, hey, this is really good music for an N64 game. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, the first one, had an amazingly good soundtrack. Like, a lot of really good third wave ska stuff from, like, the Southern California scene. Goldfinger was on it. Suicide Machines were on it. Those were the two standouts. There was a lot of other good stuff, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm into this. But that wasn't something I, like, figured out until much later. And I figured that for our first ska album, I would let you into things a little bit gently with Suburban Legends, who I'd say are a lot more accessible. Despite being kind of on, not necessarily the fringes, but, like, not necessarily the platonic ideal of what you think of when you think of a ska band.
Okay, I finally found it. I
Cool.
once heard ska described as what plays in a 13-year-old kid's head when he gets extra mozzarella sticks, and nothing in the world is more accurate.
Because nothing will ever be as good as those mozzarella sticks when you're 13 years old.
My favorite thing about that meme is that it's a picture of Real Big Fish, and okay, all right. It's not an especially outlandish picture of Real Big Fish, at least not by their standards. It's just what they look like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so ska, especially in the context that we're talking about it, is third wave ska. Mm-hmm. The first wave of ska was kind of an offshoot of or contemporaneous with reggae.
Yep, a very Jamaican reggae sound. You could say there's even some overlap with calypso.
Yeah, I've heard that it's one sort of apocryphal story of the etymology of the word ska was that it was the sound that the guitarist made when the beat just went ska, ska, ska.
That makes about as much sense as anything else.
Yeah, but then bringing punk into the mix led directly into the third wave of ska.
which is largely centered on Orange County, California, or just Southern California in general. Although there is something of a presence in the Bay Area as well. So, but California skaters.
Yeah, and so what they've done is they've taken skate punk and pop punk and added that syncopated element. Mm-hmm. In a second, we'll get to what that means. And they've added the syncopated element, and for some reason, also large horn sections.
Yeah, which that's kind of still comes from the first wave of the reggae ska.
So if you think pop punk or skate punk with horns, you're not far off the mark. Although I think there's still one key ingredient that's missing from that, which is the syncopation. Do you understand what that means, Harrison?
Generally, I know what a syncope is when you talk about your heartbeat.
Syncope and syncopation both refer to something identified as being off of an established pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear it in ska, it's that dun 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 dun, that sound, the
mm-hmm.
upstrum of the guitar. Now that is specifically relative to the tempo of the song, right?
Depending on how you measure, you could argue that a lot of ska songs are in 2/4, huh?
So what can happen is if you get a standard song with a pretty upbeat tempo, a lot of these songs have upbeat tempos. So I'm going to turn on a metronome real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
So you're not just going to play da 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 da. A traditional rock song would have ba 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 ba. That's the 2/4 beat. That's the backbeat that forms the basis of a lot of modern pop music.
Mm-hmm. Your bass
ska
and your snare.
Would take it. Yeah, well, ska would take that one step further and put emphases in between each of these beats. So it's dat 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 dat. Right?
Generally the two things I tend to look for are dominant horn section and upstrumming on the guitar.
The syncopation part that I was just talking about.
Yeah, but like when I talk about some other music being vaguely ska-esque, those are the two things I'm generally pointing out. Like, for example, to pull an example people tend to think is really weird, one of my favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers songs of all things is a song from the second disc of Stadium Arcadium called Make You Feel Better that I would argue, if you listen to it the right way, can almost pass for a ska song.
You say that about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
You said that about Tell Her About It by Billy Joel.
I stand by that one.
Okay. So, you picked an album that eases me into ska.
Yeah.
Can you go back and sort of explain what you meant by that?
So, I am going to make a bunch of speculative statements about Suburban Legends. These are my speculations. I can't tell if they're particularly open or closed about it, or if they're not a very present in the media, because how much media covers ska bands in the 2010s. But I think they don't necessarily want to be a ska band anymore. So they have gone through a lot of lineup changes. They have rotated a lot of their members through different positions. Their current lead singer was not always their lead singer. He is a founding member, Vince Walker, but he was not originally their lead singer. I think he's their third lead singer, and he hasn't even continuously been with the band. So far as I can tell, they've only had one continuous member from founding to the modern day. And as a result, I think their motives kind of change, like what they want to do. And additionally, one of their earliest steady gigs was playing at DisneyLand. Which involved, not just playing like Disney songs, but also just like whatever music is popular at the time. So I feel like they've played a lot of different music.
How long did they keep the Disneyland job?
At least a year.
Okay.
But yeah, their relationship with Disney is, I don't understand the contours of it. They don't really talk about it so far as I know, but seems to be pretty good. They have Disney covers on the album, and they're legal as best I can tell. But in 2006, they released an EP called Dance Like Nobody's Watching, which isn't really a ska album. I made you listen to the single off that EP, or the single that EP was built around.
Right.
How would you describe Come Back Home?
I enjoyed Come Back Home a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're following along with us, that's not on Day Job, but
Yeah.
it's something Harrison said was homework that I had to do for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it a lot, but midway through I was thinking, is this actually a ska song? Because I'm not sure it is.
Yup. Yeah,
I would call it more of a funk song, actually.
Yeah, they've been incorporating...
Or I guess disco?
Yeah, they've been incorporating a lot of like disco and funk sound.
Right.
Like, I think they didn't want to be a ska band anymore. And I remember when that song came out, and I remember like really liking it. I still like it to this day, but also being a little bit confused.
Yeah.
And, they've spoken somewhat openly about, like, how excited they are to play in other genres and stuff like that. But to my memory, their fan base was, let's say, lukewarm to the idea. I don't think their fan base was ever opposed to them experimenting with other genres, but, you're a ska band. I want you to play ska music. Like, hey, experiment to your heart's content, but, keep putting out the stuff we like, too. And after Dance Like Nobody's Watching, they seem to be in kind of a transitional period for a while. And, they are well enough respected within the ska community. They collaborate with Real Big Fish and Big D and the Kids Table very frequently. But I think that they didn't want to be that anymore. And after a couple of years of, a few more EPs and some, like, compilation albums, Day Job was their first, like, return to ska. And it really does seem like they've kind of found the middle ground to being able to experiment with genre while still putting out ska music. And I think that's kind of why this served as a pretty soft introduction to, our listeners and to you, to sort of like my guideway through ska. Also, no offense to Real Big Fish, they are massively influential. Their commitment to being themselves and their genre and their position in it is kind of admirable after a fashion, but I kind of didn't want to, start on a Real Big Fish album. It's a little bit basic.
Sure. And, just for clarification, you are talking about easing me into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm no novice, and at your recommendation, I've listened to Streetlight Manifesto, Big D and the Kids Table, Operation Ivy,
mm-hmm.
and have explored a little bit on my own as well. Like I said, I've listened to the Mighty Boss Tones and some Real Big Fish, not a whole lot.
And hey, you're probably somewhat familiar with Rancid too, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I'm not exactly...
and of course, let's not forget the unique dad perspective you bring to our show. Yo Gabba Gabba.
The Aquabats.
Yeah.
And Yo Gabba Gabba, yes. Oh yeah, there's a great Yo Gabba Gabba skit where they're doing a ska song and the dad is trying to get the kid to clean his room. Dad's like, you got to pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Oh, God.
And I was like, I watched it, I was like, I don't know what I expected. Obviously, that's where that was going to go.
Right.
Like, duh. Hey, let's take a second and hear from some friends of the show.
I'm Brian Colburn.
And I'm Jay Sweet.
And we're the co-hosts of Tune Styles, a podcast aimed at the music nerd in us all.
Each listener interactive episode hones in on a different musical topic or artist,
featuring guest interviews, listener polls, and roundtable discussions about the music that shaped the soundtrack to our lives.
You can find us at TuneStylesPodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever your favorite podcasts are found.
Subscribe to Tune Styles and be a part of our weekly musical conversation. Stay tuned.
All of that brings us, at long last, to 2012's Day Job.
Yeah, and I just kind of wanted to highlight Suburban Legends because they rarely seem to get the spotlight in discussions. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Suburban Legends aside other than from me?
Nope, sure haven't.
Yeah. And they have this feeling to them that I've always kind of liked, because there's kind of this like ironic tone to a lot of third wave ska acts, especially post Real Big Fish, where like they read their lyrics, they play their music kind of with their tongue planted firmly in their cheek. That's kind of become Aaron Barrett's like just general stage presence.
Yeah, definitely.
And Suburban Legends doesn't really seem to present with that kind of ironic distancing. Like, they seem to embrace that, a lot of their fans are kids, but they also seem to like what they're into, and they don't really seem to be apologetic for being positive.
Which is interesting, because track 1 on this album is very much not positive. It's a very upbeat song about having crippling anxiety.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta force yourself through it. It's not healthy, but it works for a little while.
I have a great cry every day just before lunchtime.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the idea of upbeat songs about awful things, and Emergency fits the bill.
Everything's not okay. I'm stuck in my mind. Gotta get out of here. What if I told you every smile that I think I feel?
I was surprised that it was the first track on the album, specifically because there's nothing else quite like it on this album.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the truest ska song on the album.
Huh, okay, yeah. I suppose so.
Mm-hmm.
But...
I mean, aside from the covers.
Right, yeah. Why don't we start there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the covers. So we got halfway through the album, and there was a cover of I Just Can't Wait to Be King from The Lion King. Which
okay.
was better than J.D. McCreary's version from the 2019 movie. Just gonna put that out there.
Wow, don't trip over that low bar you set.
My son was watching the 2019 version of The Lion King on Disney+.
Mm-hmm.
And I was astounded at how they couldn't even get the music right.
Man.
Like, I expected the cinematography to be clunky, because that's how it's been for most of these live-action remake things, and because remaking The Lion King with more realistic-looking CGI lions was a bad idea to begin with. But the music, that should have been a layup. That should have been the easiest part not to screw up. And yet, if you listen to J.D. McCreary singing I Just Can't Wait to Be King, it just feels flat and lifeless.
Isn't it great that Romeo and Juliet uses Elton John's music better than Disney?
Yeah. So, that said, yeah, I mean, it's a fun song, and I acknowledge that doing tongue-in-cheek ska covers of Disney songs is kind of in the lifeblood of this genre.
Oh,
it
yeah.
comes with the territory.
It is a very malleable genre, and one that
comes with the territory.
One that
right?
lends
Every
itself
ska
very
band
well
has
to
done
covers.
a Disney cover or two, right?
Yeah, there are all kinds of covers.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like if you just Google Disney ska, you'll find every up-and-coming 2-bit ska band trying to do a gimmicky Disney cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to say anything about it because it just kind of comes with the territory. Mm-hmm. But then there were 2 of them. So they did I Just Can't Wait to Be King, and it's good. It's fine. It's a great song.
It's actually the version of the song I default to.
And then we have, near the end of the album, Under the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I wasn't going to comment, but it's 2 songs on the album? Come on.
So I do have to point out...
I understand that they have a relationship with Disney. They played at Disneyland. Okay.
Well, also, the Disney covers are a large part of their live shows.
Okay. That said, Under the Sea, especially, I think is actually probably the better of the 2 covers.
You know, possibly I have just never liked Under the Sea that much.
Really? I think the source material is great. I mean, the melodies and chords are so rich and pleasing. I mean, you don't have to do much to them to just to emphasize how much they bounce and fit together properly. I do want to just slightly call out how weird it is that out of all the Disney songs in the canon, they picked the one that made Walker have to do a Pidgin Caribbean accent.
Yeah. A Caribbean patois where he has to dentalize his TH sounds.
Yeah, but
I always feel
whatever.
uncomfortable when I sing that song out loud because I'm like, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, but it's a great song, and the horns subbing in for the marimba on that song, it's just a perfect little touch. It's like the song was made to be ska covered.
It was really funny because when I was doing some last-minute brush up on my notes, I started going through the credits on the album, and I saw that Howard Ashman had songwriting credits on one of the songs. And I was like, Howard freaking Ashman, the Little Shop of Horrors guy? Hell yeah! And then it clicked, oh right, he did the music for Little Mermaid. Duh.
Yep, Lincoln Ashman.
Because
That's
I
right.
was like, how the hell did Howard Ashman and Suburban Legends collaborate? They didn't.
Yep. So,
With that out of the way.
with that out of the way, we can talk about the actual Suburban Legends songs on this Suburban Legends album.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to highlight right off the bat, since you're bringing this album and you're the one all excited about it?
All of it?
Okay, cool.
I mean, I kind of want to follow where you go. I've got some particular affection for Open Up Your Eyes, My Friend, Just Be Happy, and Arigato.
Open Up Your Eyes is one of the ones that, you know, you listen to an album a few times and there's usually one or two tracks that are like, oh yeah, I keep forgetting this one is here. That was one of them for me. It's fun. It's good. I like that it kind of goes halftime in the chorus. It has this touch of dynamism. There's also a slide on the electric guitar that's part that reminds me of the Mighty Mighty Boss tones.
Yeah, actually. I don't know. One of the things I genuinely like about ska musicians is that very few of them are really trying to reinvent the wheel or push the envelope all that hard. You know,
Right.
like, Open Up Your Eyes is a fairly simple song. The message is not particularly novel or anything, but they sell it, and they sell it with sincerity. And I don't know.
I think that applies to most of this album.
Yeah. And I don't know, that kind of just like full-throated, unabashed sincerity really just works for me. It's kind of the reason I bounced off of Dan Byrne as hard as I did. But like, yeah, just, I don't know. I remember being an edgy teen and thinking this kind of stuff was very, like, stupid and silly. But honestly, just some full-throated, sincere enthusiasm and cheer and happy. Like, I'm here for it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
What else did you say? Oh, you said arigato, which, why am I not surprised? The intersection of ska and weeaboo stuff.
Yeah, that one, that didn't even occur to me until you sent me a text like that. Like, oh, wow, this hits all of your intersections. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess it does. I also like the song. I mean, it's actually kind of creepy when you get down to it. But, like, I don't know why that doesn't keep me from enjoying it.
It clicked a little bit better when you explained to me that Walker is actually of Japanese descent.
Yeah.
That made sense.
To my Western gaijin ears, his Japanese sounds reasonably authentic to me. I even went to the trouble of attempting to translate the few lines of Japanese.
What are they?
So, funny thing, there are actually two English words in there. Not that you can understand them when they're pronounced in a Japanese accent.
Right?
Forgive my pronunciation because I am not at all proficient in this language, but Boku no hato ga anata o miru toki kanarazu doki doki. The main ones to keep track of here are Boku no, that's just my. That's what that means, my, like something belonging to me. Hato, which is the Japanese katakana pronunciation for heart, the English word heart. Yeah. Anata is you, which he even uses later in the song during an English part, and it's really weird. And me is like a certain conjugation for viewing something. Usually it's used in like the context of a landscape, but it's a fairly malleable word. And ruto, it's the English word route.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Again, you'd never hear it. And doki doki is... So you've definitely heard the word doki doki before, right?
I've heard Doki Doki Panic, the Japanese video game that Mario 2 was based on, and Doki Doki Literature Club, which is another game I've heard talked about a lot that I haven't played.
So Doki Doki is... it's an onomatopoeia.
Okay.
It is essentially the sound effect for your heart beating. You know, something that makes your heart race.
Got it.
So yeah, that's the weird... This is Harrison's Japanese lesson. Full disclosure, I don't speak Japanese.
Great.
The two lines in the song are... I can't really translate it properly because Japanese has a very strange sentence structure to an English speaker.
Okay.
But it's basically like, when I see you, my heart goes, you know, Doki doki. My heart races every time I see you.
あなたを見るとき必ずドキドキ Can't you see This is more than just a rush I think I'm just about to bust Excuse me miss I don't mean to be rude
And the whole song is like, yeah, I feel so good every time I see you. Arigato, girl. And it's like, oh, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Also, it's weird because presumably he's talking to a Japanese woman, or at least a woman who speaks Japanese.
What if he's talking to a woman who doesn't speak Japanese and he's speaking Japanese so that she doesn't understand what he's saying?
It's a thing.
Like, this is so creepy, I don't want you to hear it, so I'm just going to say it in Japanese and maybe you'll think I'm charming.
I mean, the rest of the song is still that in English, though, so eh. But, you know,
fair enough.
All that aside, I still think it's really cool. I like the song, despite the underlying kind of creepiness. It's still very, like, pure, I guess. It feels like it was written with the best of intentions.
Okay,
But,
fair
you
enough.
know, don't do that to anyone in your real life.
Right. So, let's skip around the album a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. What do you got you want to talk about?
Well, I have a few unanswered questions.
Okay.
Because there are multiple things on this album that sounded very familiar to me and I couldn't quite place. The first one I want to point out is the very first thing we hear on the album. In Emergency. The ba 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 ba. You know, that horn stab sounded so familiar. I'm almost certain it's a musical quotation of some sort. And I searched around. I never did find exactly what it is, although it sounds pretty darn close to the old school theme song to All Things Considered on NPR.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a specific reference, or it could just be like an homage to that kind of sound. Like,
maybe
it wouldn't surprise me if it's just something they made up to sound like a introductory news thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they do it elsewhere on the album too. Love Fair, track 3, that has in the bridge there's a breakdown that maybe I'm just hyper attenuated to video game music, but I swear there's a Dr. Mario reference in there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
My Friend, the one about Real Big Fish, that one has a reference to Scott Joplin's The Entertainer.
I don't know that I would necessarily call My Friend about Real Big Fish so much as it just references them.
Actually, yeah.
Did you want to talk about that specifically?
I did, but put a pin in that because the one other thing, there's a couple of other things. So there's a passage in the bridge to Arigato that I'm almost certain is like cribbed from another song, but I wasn't exactly sure what. It sounds kind of 80s-y.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something Duran Duran or something. I don't know.
I mean, I have to stress, they have probably played more music than most bands ever have. They are probably very familiar with a wide range of popular music across probably a variety of decades.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if, one, they know when they're doing it, and two, change it to make sure it's, like, you know, not actually cribbing. Like,
That's possible, yeah.
Yeah, just a speculation on my part.
And then the last one on the final track, I Can't Stop.
Ooh.
There was an ascending melody that ba 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 ba.
Mm.
And I was trying so hard to figure out where I had heard that before. And then I realized it sounded very similar to a track from an Anderson .Paak album that came out in 2018.
Oh.
Okay, well, that was 6 years later, so that probably isn't it. But I'm still pretty sure I've heard this somewhere. But you know what it was? It was both of the songs that used that were inspired, presumably, by Rain by the Beatles.
Oh, God!
It always comes back to the Beatles, Harrison.
Yeah, it's... they're just so influential, it's impossible for you to, like, not find a connection somehow. I just have to stick to hip-hop albums. You can't find Beatles references in those.
I'm sure I'll find a way, Harrison.
For
the record, I'm not accusing them of ripping the Beatles off or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just one of those iconic things that I think the Beatles just got there first, and it's kind of ruminating in people's subconscious, like so many other things.
And I mean, like, I think that kind of suffuses a lot of their music. One of the things you've pointed out in our pre-discussion is that they have a tendency to vary up their arrangement and even their genre around the midpoint or the bridge of a song.
Yeah, these bridges are often very adventurous. They'll take a song in very different places. Love Fair is probably the most extreme one, where the song changes to a minor key and the tempo changes, and it starts a shredding guitar solo out of almost nowhere.
Yeah,
it's practically a different song in the bridge.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, they are awash in a bunch of different influences because, again, they have played a lot of different music. And I think they just kind of have a kind of musical attention deficit. I don't think they want to stick on a single thing all that long. And I think that's part of why they like the Disney covers as much as they do, because Disney music tends to be pretty dynamic.
That it does. So let's go ahead and talk about, on the subject of genre, there's definitely one song on this album that I don't think has a drop of ska in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Dude Alert. Okay, first of all, Dude Alert, I think, is my favorite song on this album.
Can't believe you like the freaking Kids Bop song and Motley Crue drag.
Motley Crue is right, yeah. It's a hair metal song.
I say this with all affection. I do not mean any offense to Suburban Legends, but it is a very child-friendly Motley Crue drag kind of song.
I will say, the first time I heard it, I was immediately into it. I was singing along by the second chorus, and then I thought to myself, I should really look up the lyrics of this to make sure it's not transphobic. Because, there's two different ways you could read Dude Alert, right? You could, the one reading is, hey, you might think that's a woman, but it's actually a dude.
Mm-hmm.
But the other reading, which I'm pretty sure is where the song is going, is, hey, we're a bunch of guys and we think we're cool. Dude Alert! Like, it's me, I'm the dude.
Yeah, that was a good instinct. I definitely remember there was one line that, popped out at me at one point, wait, what? But yeah, no, it's a fun song. I just kind of have generally always had a somewhat poor reaction to Motley Crue for reasons I can't fully explain, because I otherwise tend to like hair metal. I absolutely love Poison.
So yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I liked... Whoa, 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 it's a Dude Alert. I can't get it out of my head.
Mm.
It's fun. I'm dancing to it. I'm singing along with it. I'm pretty sure it's my favorite song on this album. It's not a ska song.
You know what it also reminds me of, aside from Motley Crue?
What's that?
It very vaguely reminds me of Electric Six.
Okay, yeah, I can hear it. Especially because that song uses the squawk box.
Yeah.
And it's got the chugging guitars and the one note bass, the do 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 do. It's simple. It's like the icing on a cake.
There is
right?
a mildly homoerotic subtext if you want to look for it.
I don't know about that, but okay.
Look, we're just dudes, man, broing out hard. Tight pants, vinyl shirt, man. Just bros, broing out together like dudes do. Come on, dude. I'm not saying it's the point of the song. I'm just saying it's there if you want to look for it.
I did notice, Emergency opens on this, possible quotation or stab that's supposed to be evocative of a news theme, and then Love Fair opens on the sound of a motorcycle, and Whoa opens on that tritone phone sound, and then Dude Alert opens on a siren, and I'm like, is this supposed to be a concept album like Transatlanticism was? Because, there's a lot of ambient effects here.
With all respect to Suburban Legends and Vince Walker, I don't think they're that fancy. I don't think they're trying to be.
No. I agree with you there. I'm just being flippant.
Oh,
so hey,
okay.
we put a pin in my friend earlier. Let's take that pin out and examine my friend, because I had a question for you.
Okay.
Real Big Fish appears in the lyrics to the chorus of this song.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a mention of sell out. There's something about selling out in the lyrics, which made me wonder, were there other Real Big Fish references in this song that I missed?
None that stood out to me.
Okay.
I mean, there's like other stuff, like So Many Days in the Deep Blue Sea kind of could be a Deep Blue Sea reference. There are a few others. There's Forces of Evil, which is like a ska supergroup that Aaron Barrett made once upon a time. So yeah, I mean, it's actually filled with a bunch of Real Big Fish references now that I think about it, but it's kind of just a love letter, I guess, even though it's not specifically about them.
Okay, fair enough.
I wish I had a more definite and confident answer, but...
Okay, all right.
Quite probably.
So, we've covered a lot of the songs on here.
We've been avoiding the one.
That's true. We'll get to that in a second. I did want to mention, because you said this during Arigato, how it's kind of creepy and it's weird that you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I actually noticed... Arigato is in the middle of a creepy song Sandwich, actually.
Okay.
Take the Next Step.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to pick on it too hard. There are a lot of songs that harp on this theme of like, hey, just ask the girl out. What have you got to lose? Is it worth it? I really think so. Like, is it worth it? Well, maybe to you, but not to the poor girl who doesn't return your feelings.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's not uniquely horrible. It's just one of those unexamined things.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arigato, you've pointed out, and then Girlfriend's Pretty, which is definitely the creepiest song on this album. It's my note was: is it just me, or is this album getting broier as it goes?
I maybe it's just your mileage varies, but I figured Girlfriend's Pretty was so obviously creepy that like that was the joke.
I suppose. Oh, plus you always like songs about dropping the bomb.
Huh?
There's a lyric about her dropping the bomb.
Oh yeah, I like so. Yeah, not that bomb.
Okay, so with that, let's move on and talk about the song on the album we've kind of been avoiding talking about. I guess we've been saving it. The closer, track 14, Can't Stop It.
So the first time I listened to this album, my phone's in my pocket. I'm streaming it on my like Bluetooth speaker. I'm not looking at the song titles or what's happening. So I completely missed the featuring lyrics born part until the rap breakdown happens, and all of a sudden lyrics freaking born is rapping over the beat.
What's funny is I'm normally reading the track list ahead. I would normally have been spoiled on this. I don't know what was different this day, but it was the same for me. I didn't see it in the track list before he started singing, and I was like, whoa!
Dude, this was like 40% of the reason I recommended this album for a play disc specifically, because I wanted to catch you with that, and I'm so happy you didn't read the track list, because I was like praying you wouldn't.
So, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about this song other than that the lyrics born cameo just knocked me on my butt, and I love it.
And the song is good. Like, there's a weird genre thing happening here where, like I kind of want to hear a whole album of collaboration between Suburban Legends and Lyrics Born. I really do kind of want to hear more of this, like, California, Southern California ska-inspired hip-hop syncopation thing.
I mean, it's like everything you've ever wanted. It's an indie rapper on a ska album.
Yeah.
Just 2 songs after this song with a lot of Japanese in it.
I feel like you're making me sound like more of a weeb than I am, or at least more pathetic than I am.
I'm just saying, this is an intersection of many of your interests.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me at all that you are as fond of this as you are.
Yeah, and Lyrics Born does something that, like, any artist who can do this, I automatically respect, which is I am a sucker for any artist who can sing and rap and can do both roughly equally well.
Yeah. You know what? This reminds me, a few episodes ago when we covered Janelle Monáe, that was something that I forgot to say about her.
Yeah.
Because she's a really good singer and a really good rapper. And I don't know, maybe it's because she gets to cherry pick her raps because she only does it like 3 times an album, but every time she drops a rap verse, it blows my mind. And she's a great singer too. And the same is true of Lyricsborn. He's an amazing singer, he's an amazing rapper, and he has this style that kind of blends the two together.
But yeah, it's so good, and they play off of each other in such a cool way. It's
they really do.
Because Vince is kind of singing, and the horns are kind of going, and Lyricsborn's rapping is almost more of an instrument in that they're kind of trading fours. I assume that this is all constructed and arranged and pre-written, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It really feels like they're playing off of each other in a moment.
Yeah, and it's as soon as one finishes, the other is picking right up, with barely a pause in the sentence, almost like the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean that's why I said trading fours. That's what it feels like.
And of course, the Beastie Boys are famous not just for trading fours, but for trading words.
Right.
That's my take on that. I don't know, did we have anything else on this album? I think we covered everything I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I didn't really have all that much to say. I like the album a lot. A lot of it has less to do with the album itself and more just the way I approached it. It's still really good to me. I think it's great. I think it's a pretty soft way to ease you into the genre if you have a negative opinion of it.
Yeah.
It was one of those things for me where I don't have to be embarrassed about liking this. If you think I should be embarrassed, then screw you. Go enjoy your mature music, whatever that is. I'm gonna be over here playing with my Godzilla action figures. But yeah, I like the album. I'm very fond of it. I'm really glad I got to share it with you, and I'm glad you actually liked it. I don't know if you're gonna come back to it at all, but
I think I will.
This is my payback for making me listen to Dan Byrne. I hope you suffered.
Yeah, ow, it hurts. It hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. Please don't make me listen to ska.
I guess that's a good segue into our key track.
That's right. The key track is a segment we do at the end of every episode where Harrison and I have each independently picked a song from this album that we think is the most representative or the most emblematic. It could be the best song. It could be our favorite. In theory, I guess it could be the worst song, but it's just the one that we want to highlight as the key track of the album. And we didn't share our picks with each other in advance. So we're going to surprise each other and see if they line up.
So I'm curious what your key track was, because you said you were having some trouble with it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, crap, I forgot to even think about this. Just Be Happy.
Oh, okay. I really thought you were going to swerve into Dude Alert anyways.
No. Dude Alert. Okay, so listen. There were 4 songs on this album that I had basically ruled out altogether. It was the 2 Disney covers, Snack Break, and Dude Alert. Snack Break's too slight. It's not anything.
Yeah.
Dude Alert isn't ska, and the Disney covers are covers, which I guess could have been key track, but eh.
They don't really change the songs that much.
Right. So from the ones that remain, Just Be Happy.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is I'm not normally a fan of the whole enforced happiness thing. You have to be happy. Hey, you, stop being mad. Be happy. Be happy. Why aren't you being happy? But
oh,
sweetie, I don't know, this works for me.
Why don't you smile more?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, this gets my feet shuffling and it makes me smile. And the "Don't be a motherfucker" that works for me. Every time it comes up, it's
really unexpected.
Yeah,
because they don't drop too many F-bombs in their music, and This is a really happy and positive and like, hey, be nice to people, you
Yeah, and I especially, like, you're already kind of laughing. They've set this song up as a humorous number, and then the third verse has this line where it just veers all the way into absurdism with, but if hating makes you happy, then hate a lot and get happy.
Yeah.
I just, like, how does that even... Okay, all right, sure, yeah, that. And so, I mean, for me, this is just pure third wave ska sweetness. This is like...
Makes me think of the Watsky and Wax collaboration song "Hug a Hater."
Hug a Hater, yeah. Kick Monday in the nutsack and all that.
The Bay Area, man.
And Watsky worked extensively with Anderson .Paak, and we already connected him.
Mm-hmm.
And
he and Lyricsborn have
to
know each other. That there is no way they are not familiar with each other. There's
they must.
They have
Bay Area rappers? How could they not?
Yeah.
Anyway, while I'm off writing my Watsky Lyricsborn fanfic, what was your key track?
It was kind of a tough pick because, like, it was damn near Emergency. That is such a good song. I love it so much.
That was a close one for me, too.
But, I very much want to avoid picking the opening or title tracks when I can. But, I did the second most basic thing that I could have done, which was Open Up Your Eyes. Just because the way that song's arranged and, the message, simple though it may be, is definitely sincere and definitely hits me in just the right way.
Cool.
And, again, a lot of this comes with, like, sort of the way I came to this album of, like, oh, wow, I haven't really listened to this kind of music in years. I don't know, starting off on Emergency is, like, the perfect, this is the ska music I remember, and leading into Open Your Eyes is like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more serious and sincere.
One thing I like about Open Up Your Eyes is that it plays with the cadence. So it's open up your eyes. And then at the end of the chorus is open up your eyes. It's kind of a cheap trick musically, but it works. It's something I like. It adds a little bit of dynamism and a little interest for your ear as you adjust to the changing cadence.
Also,
as the song
the
goes
harmonizing backing vocals. Something about just growing up listening to a crap ton of Bare Naked Ladies and getting into Queen after that, really just, I'm a sucker for good harmonies.
Yeah, harmonies are very significant in rock and popular music, so that's not a thing that you have to excuse.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my key track, Open Up Your Eyes. Just Be Happy was probably like second or third on my list, though.
Okay, so we're pretty much in alignment on this one.
Yeah.
Other than your bafflement that I liked Doodle Alert so much.
It's not even bafflement. Like, I get why you like it. It's just, it's not for me.
Fair enough.
It is a good song that is aping a type of music I just don't connect with. That seems like as good a place as any to wrap things up.
All right, I'm rolling the camera because we're about to start our Playdisc Request Lottery. It's the Playdisc Request Lottery. The way this works, I have a Google Sheets document that is publicly accessible, so you can check the numbers. It has a list of albums numbered 1 to 99. Each of these was requested by a patron on our Patreon page, or a friend, or an interview guest. So if you have a request for us, you can become a guest on this podcast, or you can donate a little bit of money to us. Any level of $1 or more on patreon.com/playdiscpodcast will get you an entry into this request lottery. Now, they're each numbered 1 to 99, and I'm going to roll 2 10-sided dice. And if the number of these dice matches to one of the album requests, then we will do that for our next episode. Are you still with me, Harrison?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't say anything for a bit there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was waiting for you to roll.
I keep dropping dice, but here's a pair. I'm going to go with black this time because it matches the album cover. And here's the dice roll. The number is 61. 61 is not a request.
Aw, shucks. Well, John.
61 is not a request. So
So
Here's
I
what we
actually
have.
I haven't checked the schedule in a hot minute, so I'm not sure what you've got for us next time.
Oh, next episode is going to be very special. You and I are going to invite a guest onto our show for the first time in a discussion episode.
Oh, that's when we scheduled that. That's right.
Matt Latham, host of Pick a Disc, our British counterpart show.
Our Brummy counterpart.
Our Brummy counterpart. Wanted to guest, and he wanted to discuss an album that was pretty big in Britain, but that he thought maybe we would not have heard of. And sure enough, he asked us both, and I was like, I've never heard of this band ever. Have you, Harrison? Nope, never have. And that was Girls Aloud.
Yeah, this
British
is
pop group.
going to be kind of exciting, because basically everything I know about British music after 1990 is Oasis and James Blunt and The Darkness.
Yeah, so this is a British girl group, straight up pop.
Oh, and I guess Spice Girls, too.
And this is definitely more akin to the Spice Girls than anything else, but more like straight up pop than anything else we've done on this show so far. Not that that's a bad thing, we just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm sorry, I mentioned the band name, Girls Aloud. The album we're covering is 2005's Chemistry, with Matt Latham from
Girls
Pick a Disc.
Aloud. It's... Oh, I haven't said it out loud yet.
Oh, yeah, that's Girls Aloud. It's spelled A-L-O-U-D, but of course, Girls Aloud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That is going to be our very next episode in 2 weeks. Looking forward to dealing with the time zone as we schedule the recording of this 3-way episode.
Oh, I just thought we were flying to Great Britain.
What? And get COVID-19? Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah, right.
So, that's going to be in 2 weeks, and thank you so much for sticking with us this far.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you can do to help us out if you made it this far and appreciate this show and the entertainment that we bring you is you can go to Apple Podcasts or whatever your podcast platform of choice might be and drop us a review and a rating. Give us 5 stars if you like us. And if you don't like us, how about give us 5 stars?
And hey, if you like Suburban Legends, give us 5 stars.
Yeah, or if you don't like ska at all. Of course, that's your option if you don't want to support us monetarily by going over to patreon.com/playdiscpodcast. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. First is the thank yous. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Ben Wright Human, who provides promotional art for us. You can find more of Ben's work at bwhcomics.com if you'd like. He also supports us on Patreon, as I mentioned earlier, along with Vita Porabil, Chase DeMonte, and Adam Herchak. We're very grateful for all their support and for yours if you choose to join them in supporting us. What you'll get for your trouble is an entry into our request lottery. We'll put your name on that list, and if your number comes up, your album will be a full episode of our show. You'll also be able to chant "Play Disc" in our theme song along with everybody else, and you'll get to listen to our bonus episodes. We'll record another one of those eventually. If you want to get in touch with us, there are lots of ways you can do that. We have our email address, playdiscpodcast@gmail.com. You can get us on Facebook. We're under the name Playdisc Podcast. We're on Twitter and Instagram as @PlaydiscPodcast. So easy. We're all over the place. Not hard to find at all. Now, in 2 weeks, join us and Matt Latham to discuss Girls Aloud. But until then,
Catch you on the B-side.
Catch you on the B-side.
Pick it up, disc!
And now, a quick word on copyright. Today's episode used excerpts from several songs by Suburban Legends, namely Emergency, Open Your Eyes, Arigato, Love Fair, Dude Alert, and Just Be Happy, all written by Suburban Legends, who also own the rights to these recordings. We also used a short clip from Make You Feel Better by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, words and music by Anthony Kiedis, Michael Flea Balzery, Chad Smith, and John Frusciante, with rights to the recordings owned by Warner Music Group. We've used these short clips for the purposes of commentary without formal licensing, as allowed under Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, also known as fair use. The Playdisc theme song and Playdisc request lottery theme were written and recorded by me using my stage name John Eric. All other aspects of the Playdisc podcast are jointly owned by myself and Harrison Poorbill. The podcast and associated original songs are all licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 international license.
Play disc!